All right, what's up, y'all? It's Corey again with the MARZ project. Here we're doing another stream. Welcome and thanks for tuning in. Again, we don't have a whole lot of a plan today, so I'm just going to mess around in Ableton, have my push with me. I was thinking, I guess I lied, I have a little bit of a plan. I was thinking I'd mess around with this new synthesizer that's come out kind of recently. There's a dude who's been developing this for a while, and he just finally released it. It's called Vital. I'll pull it up right now. You can see what it looks like. So this is it. If you want to see this for yourself, the link is at vital.audio is their website. And this thing is pretty cool. I'm stoked about this. It's a free wavetable synthesizer. For those of you who aren't familiar with wavetables or synthesizers in general, I'm going to walk through some of the features of this thing, talk about what to do with it, and then, I don't know, we'll make some music with it or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. I have not really used this thing much at all. Jay heard me mess around with a few sounds earlier, just trying to click around and kind of get familiar with it, so I didn't look like completely ignorant when I was talking about it right now. What we're looking at here is a 3 oscillator dual filter synthesizer with a whole heck of a lot of modulation options, a big effects section, and a pretty comprehensive mod matrix, which I have yet to step into at all. If this setup looks familiar to you, it might be because you've used the Serum instrument before. Serum is probably the most popular like VST synth right now, or has been for quite some time. It's being supplanted by some other things, and it costing, I think it's $200 for that one, and this one's free and does almost exactly the same stuff. It's laid out almost exactly the same with the same kind of modular effects section where things can be reorganized however you want. And it's based on the principle of wavetable synthesis. So I want to talk about it. I'm going to make some sounds in it, but like maybe we can kind of like get into like what synthesis is about, and you know, we'll explore a little bit about different kind of sounds. So wavetable synths are a subset of the group of what we call subtractive synths, which is kind of a silly name for basically you start with a complex sound and then you take elements away from it. Thanks for chiming in, Danielle. Yeah, so there are a bunch of different oscillator types available in this thing, and I'm just going to make some sounds with some like really basic shapes first, using the basic shapes. So the building block of the synthesizers are, like, the main things are the oscillators, the filters, and the envelopes. I guess like technically there's an amplifiers in there somewhere, but those all get kind of hidden inside the virtual circuitry here. So basically the oscillator is the thing that generates sound, and the envelopes modify them. In this case, you can see this view of envelope 1 up here on the right, and this is my pitch. Well, I'm sorry, no, it's my volume envelope. So you see it's got a very short attack time and a short release time. So when I press a note, I really love the visual feedback on this thing too. It's so cool. So the note starts as soon as I press a note and fades out very rapidly after I'm done. We can make that fade instantaneous by turning down the release time. So it's on and then off. It even makes a click. You can hear that clicking as I turn it on and off. That's because I have the attack and release time so short. I guess I can explain a little bit about the envelope over here. The attack time is how long it takes the sound to fade in. I can make it really long. It takes quite a while. The decay time, well, so the sustain time is how long it, let's talk about the release. The release time is how long it takes to fade out after I'm done. So if I turn that up really far, I get like a long holding sound. That kind of like fun stuff like that. You can also like turn down the sustain level. So some of these things are times. Attack is a time, release is a time, decay is a time, sustain is a level. So sustain and decay are related. So as I hold a note, it sustains at the sustain level. If I want it to sustain at a lower level, I can lower that. And it drops to that level over the length of the decay time. So in this way, we can shape the kind of the envelope of the volume of our signal. You can use this for a lot of different things. In this synthesizer, pretty much every parameter can be modulated by one of these mod options. So it's pretty cool. You can use it to modify just about anything. Typically, a common thing to do is to utilize envelope 1 mostly for volumes, and then you can drop the 2 or 3 in to change some other parameters. So that, like, in terms of sound generation, though, all you'll hear that's different there is like maybe a fade in, fade out. You'll hear a bigger tonal difference if I start messing with some of the different shapes. So right now we're using what's called a sine wave. If you remember basic math from basic math, right? If you remember your algebra, your geometry, all that stuff. Sine wave has a very simple sound. If we look at it with a frequency analyzer, like if we pull up in, say, the spectrum effect, so we can take a peek at our sound here. You see the sine wave? This wave actually has a lot of overtones, a surprising amount of overtones for a sine wave. Usually a sine wave is more pure than this. But that's a little surprising observation there. So you can see the fundamental note that I'm playing here is a C3 note. And then we have these overtones here at C4, and G4, C5. So we've got like a general harmonic overtone series thing going on here. And it's just a little more harmonic content than I would expect in a sine wave. It's kind of curious. So as we step up into different shapes, we can slide this slider to select different frames of the wavetable is how this thing works. But in other sense, this might be selecting a different waveform from an oscillator. So this is another common shape, a triangle, which is going to have, you can hear already it has a much more buzzy character. And other shapes will have more complex overtones too. You can see this guy's got a lot of upper harmonic content up here, compared to the triangle, which has a lot less. The square wave's got even more. So you can see all these different waves have a lot to do with the kind of core bits of sound. If these things sound familiar, it's because these are the building blocks of synthesizers going back forever. These kind of basic shapes are the basic shapes that you hear everywhere. So this is a square wave, or it kind of looks more like a rectangle on this screen, but and you can get these what are called pulse waves, which are kind of an off-centered square wave. Which always kind of sound these pulse waves always sound kind of like video game music to me. That kind of fun stuff. Yeah, so that's the oscillator section in terms of basic shapes. So we can then filter those things. So this is what the subtraction part of subtractive synthesis is, filtering. So this synth is really cool in that it's got 2 filters, and they're what we call multi-mode. And they have a bunch of different modes and options. But the kind of typical filter sound that y'all are probably used to hearing is this kind of thing, which is a analog low-pass filter. So it's going to filter out the high frequencies or let the low frequencies pass through. So you notice that when I turn this peak up, you can kind of hear this really specific sweeping through the frequencies. So that's that's the control. Sometimes it's labeled resonance or peak on this filter. So I'm really stoked to see how many options there are here. There's a bunch of really curious things. Some of these are going to be more typical kind of options, and some of them are going to be more unusual. Couldn't tell you what the dirty modes are. Oh, these. Okay, I see what's going on. So these are all different models of different kinds of filters with different shapes. So there's the 12 dB shape, and then there's a steeper 24 dB shape. Kind of you can hear it's kind of more wubby. It cuts more of the frequencies kind of hard out. Oh, Check this out. Okay, cool. I was wondering why there was no high pass and low pass options, and that's because there's this other blend control up here. See, I told you we were exploring a new synth together, so I'm figuring this out. This is an unusual feature. So I can kind of blend this from low pass to high pass mode. So high pass filter is the opposite. Neat. So that's that. So these other ones have like some like different blend options. Like this one keeps a notch in the middle. Notch filters are pretty fun. So we're already getting these kind of like complex sounds, and I'm just touching the most basic features of this synth. So I'm like pretty into this. What a curious little shape there. So then there's like these what we call other like models of different kinds of filters. So I suspect that I couldn't tell you what Dirty is modeled after, but I do know that Ladder is referring to the Moog style filter. So this one's probably got a little bit of that creamy Moog. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's subtle, but there's a little bit more like a little more chutzpah there. And yeah, so this is super cool too because we have these multiple options too. So you could do something like both high and low pass filter. I gotta make sure they're both set to apply to oscillator 1 though. Fun. I like this synth. Cool. So let's see what else we can do with it. So obviously, like any other, I shouldn't say obviously, we have more oscillators, and so we can layer these things together. So like, say we want to perhaps add a second oscillator. And maybe we want to like pitch it down an octave. So I'll pitch it down to 12 steps. And I can use these level controls to blend it together. Now that shape's like not coming through super clearly, so let's maybe pick something. We'll do a different pulse wave. Gnarly. So a little tip, if you're trying to like blend multiple oscillators together in like a synth patch, you can use this like tune parameter. So I have, there's like these two pitch things here. There's like the semitone detune, like, and then this parameter that's like detune. So one is like to change the note relationship. So I could like say perhaps, I guess I have these play the same note, or like maybe a chord if I was feeling like really weird. I don't really like doing that stuff too often, because now I'm stuck with like every note I play is like the same chord. So like you can't really play a scale now. Sounds kind of wacky. You can. There's this advanced feature in here though, which maybe is worth trying to see if it works right. Let's try this. No, it doesn't work. Okay. I'm not sure how this thing works yet. We'll maybe have to look up the manual before I try and show you. But so generally what I do with this sort of thing, I refuse to just intonate this synth, Danielle. No, stop heckling. Okay, just for fun, let's do that though. That sounds fun. So my sister suggests tuning this way. It's so much nicer, even with these buzzy oscillators. Danielle, who's a classical musician, is chiming in to remind us that most of us listen to music in what's called that's made in what's called equal temperament, where all of our intervals are compromised to make them easy to play on keyboard instruments and make all keys the same and make transposing music really easy. But it does make our intervals slightly out of tune. So I don't know how many of y'all are getting this in the stream. This is definitely a subtlety, but this sound versus this sound. It's just slightly more in tune. I know this isn't 14 hertz. This is 14 cents. So I forget what the cents to hertz conversion is whack. But of course, when we talk about intervals, we talk about cents and not hertz. Hertz are an absolute value, and cents are relative. And since pitch operates on a logarithmic scale, we're getting technical here tonight. The way we hear pitch is like the same note. An octave above is double the frequency. So the scale of like the ratio between these things becomes logarithmic, and so we talk about these things in ratios instead of absolute terms. No problem at all. I'm here to comment on your comments. Wow, here it sounds like I'm restoring hearing. I'm discussing equal temperament, which I never get to talk about. This is great. I'm gonna set this back to a more like kind of standard kind of sound here. So we've got 2 triangle waves. They're playing right now in the same pitch. I was gonna try and set up a thing where I drop one down an octave though, right? So that's minus 12 steps. You can also do something kind of fun where you detune like the high voice. Sounds kind of nice. So you can kind of hear that like phasing. And the more out of tune I get it, the more it does that. So that's like a pretty cool sound. It also works when things are tuned in unison. So that's kind of a neat sound. So like you can kind of hear this sort of like almost like phantom frequency that emerges like when you detune 2 notes like further away and then back together. This is such a common thing that you might want to do. Like so many synthesizer sounds are made this way that this synth has an entire section devoted to this exact thing, which is this unison section over here. So what the unison section does is just adds extra voices up to 16. So one voice of a triangle wave. So here's 16 oscillators playing a triangle wave. That's real juicy. So there's something stereo about this, and I think like generally what they're doing is like these oscillators are panned somewhat left and right, and then they're detuned. So if you're listening with headphones, like I am, you should kind of hear it kind of swirling around in your headspace. It's kind of fun. So we can increase that detune amount, but it becomes pretty discordant with all these voices pretty quick. So pretty fun. There's a kind of a classic synth sound that's like really popular in a lot of like dance music genres called the supersaw, which is basically the idea is it's just a saw wave with hecka unison. You know, that's the trance supersaw thing. So okay, if you want to like lean into that and make some like trance music, you should probably add some like reverb to that. So let's like poke into the effects section real quick because this thing is just really fun. Supersaw is just a really great starting point for so much. It just sounds like music, right away. Easy peasy. So let's make it sound a little more musical. We're gonna add some reverb. So here in the effects section, which is hidden by my little cam view there. Let's resize this. Oh, I do love how this thing is freely resizable. Pretty convenient. So here, this reverb section, turn on with this button. probably the most important like sound design thing. It's like what kind of like takes the sound from like feeling like it's like in some theoretical space and puts it in a real space. Remember, without it and with it. So like now it feels like a real sound. All of a sudden, like oh, like it could be in a song. So cool. Basically, Reverb simulates a space. Pretty simple. It has a bunch of different controls. I'm not going to get too deep into it. A pretty important one is like you can set a delay time here, which like delays the onset of the reverb, which can like really helps for this kind of like modern EDM sounds. Yeah. So let's make this kind of like a pluckier pluck. I think it's kind of a cool sound, but I want some of that cool creamy Moog filter going on. So let's get some modulation going. So I want it to like close the filter when I play a note. One of those kind of things. So I'm gonna assign filter 2 to that cutoff. And let's see, how am I gonna set this up? I'm probably going to set up. So the way this works, it depends on how I want to like interact with this sound. Like if I want to like hold notes and have something happen, or if I just want to like tap notes and have something happen, then like the way I'd set this envelope is going to be different. But the first thing to do, so to map things here, right here under where it says envelope 2, there's this little like draggy doohickey. And as I start dragging it, I get this circle that I can bring to any destination that I want. So I can assign it to specific parameters of this filter here, or I can assign it to the main screen, which I think I'm just going to do that. So here, the envelope is going to affect both the resonance and the cutoff of this filter. And we get this cool animation. I just really love, I think for learning how this works, this is so useful. Because you can see what's happening. And we have this color-coded modulation. You can see this green thing is indicating that it's being modulated over here. This orange thing is indicating what it's modulating. And this these are filled in with the amount that it's doing it. So you can kind of see like I can have it go open up the filter or close it. Yeah, that's kind of nice. This is a pretty basic kind of like a EDM kind of pluck sound. So we can like make that filter close happen faster by shortening the decay time over here. To make it kind of this more like, you can really hear the pre-delay on that reverb working now. So that feels a little more natural. Again, it just makes me want to play like Eurodance stuff. So like, I like how it I like what it's doing so far. It'd be cool if it had more motion, like while I was holding a note, though. Like. So I could do something like that, like could be neat. So let's add some motion. Like, so if you want to make a sound change over time, and you just kind of want to like just have it be less like static and repeating. Thanks for, I was gesticulating, so thanks for catching that. I'm trying to catch all my gestures. So if you're trying to do that kind of thing, the thing you want is an LFO. So there's like the two mod sources that are the most important here are the envelopes and then the LFO, which is short for low frequency oscillator. And what that means is that it's basically going to slowly, imagine just like someone with a little slowly over time turning a parameter up and down. There's a nice graphic display in here that shows you the shape of the LFO, but the general, like the default shape is a triangle, it seems to be. So you can see LFO1 here. There's a few different ways that it can work. I'm gonna set the mode to sync, which is going to, and I'm gonna set the, instead of frequency, I'm gonna set it to or I'm gonna set the frequency to seconds. So now basically every half a second, this thing is going to repeat this cycled waveform. And so then I can apply this to some parameters of the synth. So like, what should we do that to though? I think an interesting spot could be like maybe one of these warp modes. So there's a, like, just like Serum, there are these, I don't know what the lingo is for them in this synth. What do they call these? Oh, there's no mouse over tooltips either. I just get to guess. So we get these basically like Spectral Morph, they call this one, and Wave Morph. Okay, great. So Spectral Morph, I couldn't even tell you what these do. But let's try one because they sound fun. Harmonic Stretch sounds really interesting. So we're going to modulate this harmonic stretch parameter with LFO. Well, let's first find out what it does. Ooh. You can see the waveform getting all wacky looking, right? And so like, I love this kind of visual feedback. It's pretty clear that the weirder the wave looks, the wackier it sounds. Like that's like, it's true. It sounds so silly, but it's totally true. So that's kind of, so that's harmonic stretch. What's in harmonic stretch? Almost like that better. Yeah, we're gonna modulate that. That's real fun. So I like it heading in the upwards direction. So we're gonna assign LFO1 over to this sound, or this parameter. So now, it's kind of hard to tell because it's like, so, I'm gonna turn the frequency down. If you watch the LFO, you can kind of see that it's just tracking along and starting wherever I start. So now like, you probably wouldn't notice this at all. Like if I play these staccato notes. Well, maybe you will a little bit. But it really adds some like thickness and interest to that thing. So I will say that like kind of getting to the extremes of that range seems like it's like kind of like sucking out a little life from the sound. So maybe let's like just shorten the range of that modulation. So now we get this kind of like swirling overtone thing. Fun. Oh, this works great as it's always worth it to check this out too. Fun. So I'm just like dinking around and trying. This is I guess this is like the third or fourth sound that I've made in this synth, but I'm exploring, and like this is turning out pretty cool. Like maybe let's try and like use this musically somehow. So I've been thinking a lot about like listening to a lot of like kind of like lo-fi sort of like LA beat scene stuff and a lot of burial lately. And I'm thinking about like trying to make like something that sounds a little burial-y. This kind of like dance sounds always make me want to like make like a kind of a sad faux dance track. So in the interest of trying to end up with some music at the end of this and have it not just be a synth tutorial, let's pick out some drum sounds. So y'all saw my strategy for this last time, I think, if you tuned in. If you didn't, you can go and check out the replay of that stream. But I like to just kind of like flip through and just grab a bunch of sounds. Like that's really weird. So I try not to get too precious about this, but I do want like this kind of like burial kind of sound. So I'm looking for, I don't know if y'all have listened to him before. Burial is a producer from the UK who's known for using a lot of like kind of found sound kind of percussion sounds and a lot like kind of like off-kilter rhythms. I'm kind of regretting saying I was going to make something that sounded like him because it's probably not going to sound anything like that. As I'm flipping through my sample library again, you know, I'm not getting too precious. So we're getting here into the vintage drum machines, which is maybe less what I want. But like sometimes these sounds can be fun. Let's see, pulling them out. Some cassette drums maybe. Those things are so weird. Take a clap from that. That's pretty wacky. What are we gonna do? So like, you know, like I'm just gonna fill this rack up, I think. These are all loops. Cool. Weird little spring reverb sound. Little noise snare. That sounds more like a hi-hat to me. Let's go a little DJ Mustard drums while we're in here. Maybe like an actual hi-hat that works. Grab DJ Mustard clap. Why not? And oh, we're getting so close to filling it up. Little trappy snare. And one last weird perk from DJ Mustard for me. Oh, that's, yeah, okay. Cool. All right, what are we gonna do? 16 random samples and a trance pad. What are we gonna do? That's what came out. Guess that's what we're doing today. So, if I'm using the capture parameter here, so I've just like slapped this button and Ableton's captured what I just did. And it's not always great at interpreting where I think the downbeat is. I was kind of hearing it here. So, is that actually going to loop nicely? I think it might. Sick. Okay. So, this didn't come out how I was planning for it to, but this is what we're doing now. So, great. First idea, best idea, as I said last time. So, this kick drum is just like a bit much for me. It's very like tonal. And I'm kind of looking for more of like a thump. So, here my sampler, I'm gonna like try and like cut out some of the end of that. It's not enough bass for me. So we're gonna use a little trick here. We're gonna get out the drum bus and add some sub to this. Just the kick. I wanna find out like where it's like naturally bassy and emphasize that rather than adding something kind of artificial. So I noticed there's like, it seems like it's got, well, this is a weird flat response here, kind of between like 40 and 80 almost. So I don't know, split the difference, call it 60, see what happens. Oh, that's what I had. It sounds better when it's like emphasizing the low end of that range though, around that F sharp note. Cool. I'm gonna let this thing guide me into the notion that we're gonna play in the key of F sharp. So just like while I'm sitting here, before I forget, I'm going to flip on the push. I'm going to go over here and flip into the key of F sharp. So to do that, push 2, push 1's the same way, but you get out the scale selector. So you can, the knobs here let you cycle between different scale types. I'm not super concerned with which type of scale I'm using yet. I just want to see the F notes. I kind of like leaving it on the major scale, just because I can see how everything's like works in relation to it. You know, like I'm used to thinking about scales as being like modified versions of the major scale, or like that's a way of considering them. You know, like the minor scale is like the major scale, the flat 3 and a flat 6 and flat 7. So you can use that to your advantage if you want. I just like to leave it in chromatic mode so I can see, like right now it's set to C, so these lit up notes are like the white keys on a piano and the dark notes are like the black keys on a piano. I'm gonna like do my magic transposing thing, so I'm gonna go to key of G flat, which is the same as key of F sharp. Nothing looks different here because I have fixed grid off, but now this note is or I should say this note is an F sharp instead of a C. So now it's kind of like if you play guitar, it's kind of like putting a capo on a guitar. Now this is all relative to F sharp, and so I can just like think about it a little easier. It's nice to have your kick drums in tune with your beat or with your instrumental. It's not like a necessity, but it certainly sounds good when they are. So like I don't know what's going on with this beat, but like something like I feel like it's like we're in like the 110 spectrum, which is kind of like a funny tempo to be working on. Definitely not the sort of thing I set out to do, but it's the first thing I played, so we're doing it. So maybe like the second time, like I might develop this. Like I've got all these other sounds. So like I might just like loop this for a second and like dink around with some of these other sounds and see if like any of these other things sound cool. Hit the wrong button. We need MIDI arrangement overdub on. There we go. I don't know why I turn that off sometimes, but this is how like I'm gonna be able to record over this. I got a little late bass note there. I didn't time correct any of this, and I'm realizing that I might regret that. So I'm just gonna do a little quantizing. Yeah, that's something. Oof. Too much bass in that, so we're gonna filter that out here. So I'm gonna do this dance music style where I'm not gonna like worry too much about like developing this idea like too like deeply. I'm just gonna like build up some layers real quick. So like just gonna like create a fourth layer of busyness here. And like so now I'm having these like 4 separate loops where like adding layers of busy. So I'm going through and like filtering out a lot of these sounds. Like I don't want anything but the kick to have any low end in it. So remember, here's what we have so far, going from the beginning. Pretty fun. Maybe we could even have like one, maybe like we should have like an even more stripped down version of that first one. Yeah, I don't normally make stuff like this, but it's what's happening. Fun. We can capture that. That was kind of cool. That's sort of what I was hoping to get. Coming in a little sideways though, for some reason. Wasn't paying close enough attention. Oh yeah, doing that thing. Gotta get that MIDI note right there at the beginning. Ah! I swear Live was like got better at starting its MIDI notes in the middle there, and then it got worse again. I'm gonna set this thing to mono. Right now I have this set so I can play chords, but I think it might sound cooler as a bass. Yeah, that's working pretty good for me. So like I wouldn't typically like put like a big fat reverb on a bass sound, but I feel like this is working pretty good. So to make it sound more like authentic, like in this kind of style, like we'd probably want to do like some get some more like interesting background noises too. So like this is a total Corey move, finding some noise. Let's go into the cymatics collection and pull out some of these field recordings. Like, let's just get these like. All right, yeah, let's get some vinyl crackle. Oh, these are really short recordings, aren't they? What's the longest one here? Yeah, this one's pretty good. So this is such a cheapskate way to do this, but I don't care. I'm just gonna loop this bit of vinyl crackle. So it's like no effort vibes. If we wanted to do this like in a more interesting way, like there's all sorts of other options for like ways to get noise. There's even some built into Vital. So we could do something like that. Oh, weird, my computer froze for a second. Funny. So let's, I just want to show you that real quick, because I thought this was really interesting. So there's this whole other section here, I didn't even talk about, the Smp section, which is a sampler. So like the idea is you can add like a little like bit of noise to a sound. Oh yeah, I added one of my custom folders in here. So they have like noise as a source. Like coffee grinders, box fan. So like you might like build a sound that has like a noise component into it. So like maybe let's use a sound that has this jackhammer sound. Weird. So I want to make something to go with this thing. I want to make a really wacky sound. So let's just like try and get into the kind of outer space of this thing. So we're gonna reach for a weird wavetable, like squish flange. That sounds pretty weird. What is that? Neat. Squish flange. So let's get some weird sources of modulation there. One thing I wish that I could see how to do. Oh right. Oh cool. Here it is. I want to like just do something weird and like I'm gonna set the note value to this. So now, depending on what note I play. It plays a different portion of the table. Kind of fun. So let's assign some other parameters to that too. Let's have velocity also affect it. So that's how hard I play. And then let's have the LFO also modulate it. But like, so there's going to be some sort of constant sound changing over time. So like, I want this to be kind of like a thinner lead effect. So I'm going to go here and get my filter out the lows. I said I was going to add this jackhammer sound in. I wish I hadn't said I was going to add that jackhammer sound in, but that's what I'm doing. I said I was going to do it. So, I'm going to pitch this. What do I want to do with this? Let's, oh yeah, I found this really interesting sound earlier. When I was messing with the reverb, I was messing around with changing the I guess it was the size parameter, huh? Kind of a fun thing. I love that sound. That's the sound that you get. I'm changing the size of the reverb, and so it's kind of like messing with the pitch. You can also do a similar effect if you mess with the delay time. So that's at seconds, and then we'll modify that. So. So now, like, we're in like full on happy accident territory where I don't know, I just like added some modulation and now things like that are happening. So that's great. This is like the sort of thing I want. I don't want to spend too much time being all precious about like finding every nuanced little thing. I'm just like kind of want to find something cool and like make something, you know? So like, how do I use this whack sound that I just made? Like, yeah, I'm gonna capture that though. There's something to that. So like, I don't like any of that. But like, what if those were actually on beat? That'd be kind of cool. Maybe that'd be good. Salvage my take there. I'm gonna quantize those quarter notes real quick. Or eighths is probably fine. Cool, like, that was kind of weird. If I, you know, like to make this like a little more interesting, like I'd probably like go in and do some automation of some of these effects. Like a real obvious one would be to maybe like open up that filter on that bass. I think it'd be kind of cool sounding. So I want to do that. Automating parameters on third-party instruments in Ableton can be kind of a pain in the butt. Let me show you how to do it. So anytime you're using a third-party thing where it pops up in this window like this, Ableton's got this like kind of XY pad window here. These can be mapped to specific controls. Like looks like filter 1 cutoff is already available as a destination there because that's the last thing I grabbed maybe. Yeah. So basically here's how the mapping works. So you can map this XY pad to something if you want. These drop-down menus will populate with the last parameter you clicked on. So if I click over here on the filter cutoff control, that's now available as a destination here. And if I click on the filter resonance control, that's available here. And now they pop off here as well. So now I can grab the XY pad and control that thing even when the synth is closed. So I can record myself automating that. So let's do that. I want to make sure I don't accidentally record over my MIDI. So automation arm is on, and MIDI overdub is on. So if I record onto this track, it should just let me mess with it. So I'm going to start with the filter real nice and close, and then we'll open it up over time. a lot more dynamic and interesting, right? Hope that actually got, yeah, there we go, cool. So my automation is recorded here. You can see the resonance automation there and the cutoff automation here. So this is all fully editable. Like, so I'm gonna do like a quick passive automation on this other sound because this other sound's static nature is driving me nuts. Let's find some other interesting parameters to automate. We're gonna, because I have so much fun messing with delay time, we're gonna mess with the delay frequency and the feedback. Are we gonna do that? We'll see what it does. Maybe we're gonna hate this. Here we go. Oh, I should have probably armed the correct track. So we're recording automation on this track. I'm not convinced I actually liked that very much. I'm gonna undo that. Try and get this closer to where it was set before. Cool. Let's just go for something simpler with this one. I'm just gonna automate the freaking volume. So if I want to add more controls than just these two to my thing, I can click on this configure button and it'll allow me to populate this with more controls. So I want to like automate, I think, probably the master volume, I guess. And then maybe let's try the cutoff of this filter too, just for fun. Those are two generally useful parameters to automate. The nice thing about doing this too is like when these are here, they pop up for any controller that has a blue hand control. So like on my push, Jay, if you want to flip over the screen real quick, you can see that the 4 parameters I've automated are here on the push. So that's cool. So I can use these knobs to control any and all these parameters at once, rather than just the 2 available on the XY pad. So let's see what this does real quick. Well, it'll be pretty obvious. Just gonna record some automation with it and see what happens. Cool, so there's like a little bit more variety going on in that sound. So like, I'm gonna like listen back with a critical ear now that I can like hear it without thinking about it. So there's like a more volume variety than I'd like in there. So I'm gonna like show this automation. I just don't even need to hear that to know that I want to do this next thing. So Live has these really awesome new scaling, I shouldn't say new because they've been in here for a while now, relatively new scaling tools. So like I like this automation, it's just too extreme. So I'm just going to shrinky dinky it. So now it's going to operate over a narrower range. And also I want it to like kind of maybe fade in at the beginning there. So like, go and tweak some timings real quick. Dang, that sounds like some music. So, yeah, what would I do to like make this more interesting? I think we could really use like a big white noise riser. Like, feels like at a certain point, like having some kind of noise here at this end is really gonna help. Let's use this filtered one. Oops, wrong track. Gonna reverse it. This thing looks like it's warped, so I'm gonna unwarp it. I don't think it's terribly important that it's warped. I don't know if y'all caught that boo-boo that I made, but it sounded pretty cool. Somehow I accidentally ended up dropping that white noise track and replacing my vital sound with a white noise track, but it sounded kind of cool. Let's undo our way out of that, though. There we go. And then we'll paste that thing back in, because I was smart and copied it. So, like, okay, example, happy accident, right? Like, I didn't, I didn't intend to do that, but it was kind of neat. So, like, just what happens if I do that again? So like, I don't know, like, it wasn't something I would have intended to do, but like you could like do something like, I just quickly and slowly had it like double that part, and now I'm just gonna like have it like fade in over the course of this section. Yeah. Tunes. So, you know, like from here, like it's probably gonna, I might like drop down to like a kind of a low automated state of this bass, you know, like I'd probably like try and keep something moving interestingly. At this point, you know, it's probably worth introducing some kind of new sound. Let's try and get some like glassy pad going. Glassy pad. So I'm gonna pull out the old Vital again, and we're gonna make a new sound. Glassy pad. So I'm always thinking about like when I'm doing like sound design or like arranging, which is kind of like a dual parts of the same process. In my mind, you know, like choosing the sounds I want to use and then choosing what I want them to do. I'm trying to think about like what's present and what's absent, if that makes sense. So like we've got like this kind of like thick bass with like a lot of busyness going on. It's got like a lot of like meaty low frequencies. And we've got this like, we've got this sound, which is kind of like just kind of doing glitchy, weird little short things, you know? I almost want to like tighten up that automation even more. I'm just gonna like shrinky dink it like a bit more, so it's a little more consistent level. And then so it's got like short little glitchy sounds and like big chunky bass. So what we don't have is like something like smooth riding over the top of the whole thing. So let's make ourselves like a sort of EDM pad kind of thing. So we're gonna look for like wavetable that provides us with kind of like this what I call it glassy sound. So to kind of like hear the wavetables, I'm gonna just set up right away an LFO. Just sweep through them so we can hear them. I don't know about this one. This really sounds like what the Moog oscillators do. They generally have like a smooth blend from triangle to saw to square, and all the way to through pulse to silence. So my old Slim Fady used to sound a lot like this when you sweep the knob. Ooh. Harmonic series tables are pretty interesting. We can do a whole stream about the harmonic series sometime. This one just smoothly modulates the pulse width. That's handy. It's so interesting that some of these things that happen to look interesting also sound interesting. This is the sort of thing that I'm looking for. Like, so I'm gonna play it pretty high. All right, so let's add a filter that's gonna do something else weird to it too. So, oh, it did get a lot louder as I leaned back. Oh my goodness. Like Serum, there's a bunch of these kind of like atypical filter options as well. I guess they're becoming more typical now. So this is like Formant filter. So we're gonna like have this slow moving LFO do some weird things to this filter too. So you can hear kind of like popping up all these other overtones. So this particular sound sounds really, this kind of thing sounds really interesting through a reverb. I'm gonna smooth out this reverb, take some of the lows out if I can get it to grab it. It's got a glitchy sounding as I change the size while it's playing. If we wanted to get even weirder, we could try and add another filter here. We try like one of these phaser filters. Serum has these as well, and these are always, I found, pretty wacky. So let's I think I just wrote my next ambient album. So it's a pretty complex sound that I've got going on, but it's actually, in a sense, it's kind of not, because the modulation is all from one source. So this sound should repeat pretty much exactly the way it sounds every, what, 13 seconds here? So I can speed that up if you want to hear it like more repetitive. You can hear it's looping. So if I wanted to make this sound like more complex, which like if I was gonna make you listen to it for like 10 minutes at a stretch or something like that, I'd probably go through and set up a second LFO for some of the, like maybe like I'd pick like what I'm automating like 5 or 6 different things with this, and maybe I'd do half of them with a different LFO that had a different rate, or so that then you don't have the things repeating so regularly. So like maybe I'm gonna, let's see, how do I remove individual destinations? Cool, so I'm gonna like remove, like filter 2 and is gonna get modulated by LFO 2 instead. And I'm going, LFO 2 is going to also be, oh, it's gonna be in sync mode, that'll be helpful. So trigger mode for this one's gonna be, so, oh yeah, trigger and sync mode. So trigger mode resets the LFO every time I hit, and sync mode just is free running. So this will get it to be a little like we'll have a little less regularity here, so it'll be more interesting. Oh yeah, audio rate modulation. The faster I get it, I feel like I probably should have just been recording the audio output while I was doing a lot of this. So this is the thing you can do. Like if like say you want to record that, like I could go through and like automate and like go like just make it do that. But like sometimes you just want to like grab a weird sound you're making. So like oftentimes like over here like in Ableton, I'm gonna set up I'll have an audio track set to just resampling. And you just like set it to record. I guess I have to set both these tracks to record. Just, but if you can just like record some audio, like I'll just go over here and just start recording. Whoa, oh, that's not a very helpful feature at all. I do like this resizable window, but if you accidentally make it that tiny, no one's gonna do much with it. So here, I'm gonna make this. Okay, that got silly. But so I've got audio of that now. I don't really care what notes I play, but now I've got this like funky audio. So like maybe that'd make a good intro to this track. Where did the goods bit come in? I think it came. So it's got like all this like low rumble in it. I don't really care for that. I played a really low note because I liked what the automation was doing, but I don't actually want to hear that low note. So I'm gonna filter it out. So it's like a interesting transition effect that I made, like using like, I don't know, it's was intended to be a sound, like a. Oh yeah, I was gonna do something with it though, right, in this second section. Notice I'm like messing with the like pitch bend slider here. It's the touch strip, I guess. So you can use this to like modify the pitch of the notes, and that gets recorded as MIDI data in your clip over here, or should have. Yeah, here's my pitch bend data. So I'm like bending some of these notes down and up to kind of give it a more organic kind of feeling, because like a straight note, straight on pitch, is not like very natural. Not that synthesizers are very natural in general, anyways, but. Wow. And so all those effects, like all that reverb and delay, everything you're hearing is vital, except for the drum sounds and some of that white noise and the crackle. That's pretty cool. I'm kind of reminded of when I first tried Serum, in that I was like really surprised at like how nice it sounded. You know, like I've been using VST since probably the like the late '90s. Early 2000s, and they used to sound terrible. Computers just weren't like that capable of like processing stuff that processor intensive. Like to do this kind of audio rate modulation requires like a lot of CPU power, and to like get these high resolution waves doing all kinds of weird stuff, and then having all these parameters interact is just like, it's very CPU intensive. I've got a 7-year-old machine that was pretty well spec'd out for its time, but you see this thing's hitting. I've got a relatively low buffer size too, because we're playing live here, but I'm hitting about 20% CPU usage. Fun fact, while I'm talking about this, the CPU meter in Ableton is not a meter of how much CPU you're using. Most people think it is, but it's really a measurement of how much of the audio buffer your computer is able to process before it bumps into the buffer size. So your buffer size control here is directly tied to your CPU usage. So you probably noticed that increasing the buffer size sometimes helps with the pops and crackles. That's because when your audio buffer is longer, your computer doesn't have to process stuff as fast to get it processed in time. So I should be able to, if I flip this to 2048, yeah, you see a drop in CPU usage because my buffer's longer. It's not like a 1-to-1, you know, that's a much bigger buffer and it dropped my CPU use in half, but yeah, so as I pop it back down to a faster buffer, I get more CPU. And then this is of course with nothing playing. When stuff starts playing, it's surprisingly lean on the processor, actually. It definitely bumps it up, but it seems like a lot of the processing that's happening is happening regardless of whether or not I'm playing anything on it or not. So it's cool. A problem with Serum, the other like direct competitor to this, or I suppose this is a direct competitor to that, is that the thing is like notoriously a CPU hog, and it's really difficult to like accomplish a whole lot with a whole bunch of instances of it. So you would do a lot of that resampling to audio that I did earlier. But this seems to be working just fine, which is great. You know, I'm not using a lot of the super advanced features. You know, if I got in here and started messing with a bunch of these effects, maybe we'd feel differently. One thing I didn't check out that I'd be curious to check out real quick, if y'all are still with me here, is like, what's up with the compression in here? One of the things that's really nice about Serum is that it has the OTT effect built in. And I'm kind of like, I'm not seeing something like that here. OTT is like a really hardcore compressor effect. So let's see what kind of compression options are available for us. Oh, it's multiband. Haha. So great. This is the trick for making massive EDM sounds, is this tool. Okay, brief story of the OTT. OTT is a preset in Ableton. It is a preset of the multiband dynamics effect, this one right here. And it sounds like this. Here's it off, and with it on, it flattens everything out. It doesn't sound that like crazy on this synth right now, but if you put it on like some samples, you'll really hear that it just like makes everything super loud and just like it basically destroys the dynamics. So this effect has been emulated a number of times, and it's being emulated again over here in this plugin. Where you'll really hear it sound interesting is if we like a sound with some reverb. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So it really like brings out that reverb and like almost makes it its own thing. So running a bunch of effects into one of those is a pretty important sound design tool of EDM. So I'm gonna make just like some wacky EDM supersaw thing over here again. So here's like a detuned square wave with some reverb on it. God, I love this reverb. We're gonna do the EDM stuff to it, so let's flange it. Look at this clear illustration of what a flanger does. I just love that. If y'all didn't know what a flanger does, maybe you do now. It's basically sweeping, like pitching up and down to weird spiky comb filters. So we're gonna turn on all the mod stuff. And then we're going to feed this into the multiband compressor. Weird. Cool, let's see if we can use this. Oh, geez. That got a little messy. I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I kind of like those like short notes at the beginning, so I'm gonna like just go chop some of these note lengths. My goodness. That sounds like a little like static for me when it like sits. I want it to do more. So let's just like do something really simple to it real quick. We're gonna do this like super basic sort of like what do they call this? It's like a EDM kind of a pad thing. Where we're gonna have the volume modulated by LFO playing eighth notes, and it's going to be set to sync mode. All right, so sounds like something. Didn't end up as the glassy pad that I set out to make earlier. I guess is this thing glassy enough? I don't think glassy is the word I'd use to that. You getting those clicks and pops over there? Yeah, we're starting to hit that point where even though I'm not like taxing my CPU too hard, we're still getting some stuff happening. Anyways, let's bring some of these riser guys over here again. I'm just gonna like not think too hard about this and add another guy here. So let's hear what we got. Yeah, I was a little busy in there. Probably like clean that up and like just like use this thing that I just threw in for some accents. I feel like I didn't like it whenever I heard it like holding out for a long time. That kind of like bothered me, but I think it's kind of cool. It's pretty atypical for me, like personally, to like have these kind of like rambling sort of melody stuff, you know. Like I tend to be kind of tidier and like I'll edit down a thing, you know. In the interest of time, I'm just kind of like trying to like get something out. But also like it adds a lot of interest when you go through and play the idea over and over again instead of just like doing it one time and looping it. If you're at all instrumentally inclined, or even if you're not, I really encourage you to like try and do that. Once you've made a loop and it's a perfect little loop, it's way harder to like, for me personally at least, like it's way harder for me to go back and add variations to that intentionally that sound cool. It's much easier for me just to like play stuff and like the variations come naturally, and then I can edit down the ones that I like. Just, you know, like maybe some of you are better at this than me, or maybe you're making some genres that like are intending to feel more kind of mechanical than what I'm shooting for. But like I often just find that like it sounds kind of like rote or mechanical when I do things that way. Like all like it's just kind of predictable, and I have like these kind of patterns that I fall into, and they kind of sound like how they sound all the time. So experimenting with different composition strategies is really helpful. New instruments is always an interesting way to like shake it up and like try something new. You know, I wouldn't have gotten these sounds in like with a different tool. Not that you couldn't, but I didn't. You know, and so finding like the tool that gets you where you're trying to go is really important. You know, so it's worth it to try new things, but it's also like. Also really important to remember that just because this is like a hot new synth doesn't mean you need to use it. If it doesn't have a place in your workflow, forget about it. But it's free. Again, it's called Vital, and the URL is vital.audio. If you Google Vital synthesizer, it'll come up, and you have to make an account, but it's free for everyone. And this is going to be on all of the MARZ computers from now on, so everyone will have access to this. It's a little complicated at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's all nice and flat, and it's like kind of dragging around interface that it's pretty accessible for everyone. So I look forward to showing more people how to use it in the future. I think it'll be really neat. I guess this is probably a reasonable time to sign off, as I seem to have made a little over a minute of music that isn't terrible necessarily. I hope this was entertaining, at least somewhat, and maybe even a little informative. If you are stoked on this, you know, feel free to like and subscribe and do all that stuff. You know, we're doing this every week, Thursday at 5, until we are forced to stop, and I'm not sure why that would happen. And yeah, if you want us to stay tuned for more granular info, we'll be talking about all this stuff on Instagram before it happens. So Instagram is a great place to keep in touch with kind of day-to-day MARZ stuff if you want to stay tuned. Reach out and let us know what you thought about this. Hit us up, email, Instagram, whatever, YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.